Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar with Ren Auto. I'm Eva and I'm part of the campaigns team here at Birchal. Very soon I'll be introducing you to Tom here. He's the director of Ren Auto and he's here to tell you about the exciting investment opportunity in his company. But before I do, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land I'm streaming in from. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin nation, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Birchal is working with Tom and his company Ren Auto on the upcoming crowdsource funding offer. Crowdsource funding, also known as equity crowdfunding, is a form of fundraising in Australia that allows startups, small businesses and growing businesses to raise capital from a large number of investors through an online platform such as Birchal. Instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks or venture capitalists, companies can turn to the public in general, often their communities, to raise money in exchange for equity in their business. Birchal Financial Services will be the licensed intermediary for this offer. The information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes and should not be considered as advice or a recommendation to invest. Please do your own research. Always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning before investing. More information is available at birchal.com. Now, this is how today's session is going to run. Tom is going to kick off with a presentation on Ren Auto, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. To submit a question, look to the bottom of your Zoom screen and you'll see a little Q&A bubble. Please pop it in the Q&A box and we'll go along and answer the questions after the presentation. We're recording today's session, so if you do have to jump off early, a recording will be sent around afterwards. And without further ado, I'll now hand over to Tom from Ren Auto. Hi, Tom. How are you going?
Good afternoon, Eva. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Love you to kick off now with your presentation and share this exciting opportunity with investors.
Excellent. Well, I'll start sharing my screen. We'll jump straight in. So good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those of you in Perth. Let's get started, hey? We are on a mission to bring sellers and buyers great results by facilitating smooth transactions in the luxury car market. In simple terms, we sell cars, often servicing both sides of the transaction, however. We are a young company with a diverse and dynamic team in a growing industry. Our refreshing approach in an otherwise traditional industry has been met with some awesome feedback. We've spent these early years investing in our brand, establishing a reputation, a business location, and carving out a market niche where we are gaining traction. We are now seeking investment to continue our growth in a capital-intense industry. Our vision is to redefine the luxury car selling and buying experience, positioning Ren Auto as the destination for transactions in pre-owned and near-new luxury, setting the standard for excellence in customer satisfaction. The luxury car market in Australia grows 5.28% year on year, and I saw an opportunity for a truly independent alternative to branded franchise dealerships where both sale and consignment coexist. Being independent, we are adaptable and evolve with customer preferences, catering to the needs of individuals and retaining our clientele. Operating in the luxury space means that we are building a network of high net worth individuals. So what do we do? At this stage of the business, we offer three core services: selling high-end vehicles on consignment, buying high-end vehicles to sell as stock, and on-site finance. What distinguishes Ren Auto is the level of service we offer to our consigners, who are high net worth, busy individuals, typically. Our understanding is that our customers value their privacy and generally lack the time or enthusiasm to engage interested buyers themselves. In other words, they don't want people coming to their home to kick tires. Additionally, the commitment we have to the presentation of the stock and the skills we have in selecting the right cars from the private market. We focus on two categories: sports cars and luxury SUVs. And by targeting different market categories, this allows Ren Auto to capture more market share in the luxury segment. For example, customers move from sports cars to SUVs and back again, or they own both. Vehicle purchases often coincide with people's personal circumstances changing. For example, kids, new jobs, or moving house. Ren Auto is positioned to be part of these changes, and we aim to retain customers over the longer term. For consigners, we take care of independent mechanical inspections, presentation of the vehicle itself, professional photography, purpose-built advertising, all communication, negotiation, transfers, and every other step of the sales process through to delivery and payment. Ren Auto acquires vehicles that reach and exceed our strict selection criteria, and vehicles that are sale ready produce faster sales and excited new owners and happy sellers. This ensures we always have high quality stock that sells well and enhances our brand's reputation. I'd like to share with you here some of the key events in our journey so far. In March of 21, I started Cochrane Group Pty Ltd, which is the company of Ren Auto, and we started generating some finance income. In September 21, I started selling cars through door-to-door service. In April of 22, I shared a facility, and in April 23, I leased a building. We're going to come back to this slide. I had a clear vision and turned it into a business, selling cars while we continued to set up the location and build our brand. 1 year on, and the consignment stock is a reality. In July 23, I leased a second building close by to increase our capacity for storage. In September of last year, I began adding staff to build a team, starting with David in sales, Fabio in finance, Andre for day-to-day operations, and recently we've welcomed Lucas to the team as a marketing professional. Coming back to this slide again, we'll see that in November of 23, we were recognised in the Australian Financial Review Fast Starters list, and December 23 saw our first consignment sale. Moving forward to today, and here we are with Birchal. So what are the challenges? Well, the typical challenge that you would experience with a startup. We're a young business with all the typical challenges, and this is a capital-intense industry. Sales of vehicles are cyclical and subject to market changes. There is an element of reliance on third parties where we work with other businesses for some parts of our process. Traction. Being named as a fast starter, where criteria for success in consecutive years is increases in annual growth rate over 3 financial years. Coming in 10th out of the 100 fastest growing startups in Australia has boosted our credibility and added to the brand. We are establishing market share, growing our brand recognition, and building a reputation for customer service. Looking at car sales data, in just 7 months of working within the consignment model, Ren Auto has the most amount of stock and the most views for Porsches in Queensland on the car sales advertising platform. We are taking market share from our competitors, with our stock representing just 0.85% of the prestige stock, however, 2.9% of the total detailed views. So here you can see the market position for Porsche vehicles. The red dot is Ren Auto, and our competitors are denoted in grey. You'll also notice if you look on the blue bar graph, from December to May, this data runs, the trends that are occurring since we have started the consignment model. And there is 10.3% of the total stock in Queensland for Porsches. And this is just an example of what we've done with one brand. And there's other opportunities for other brands and manufacturers that are sitting in the market. And we'll be trialing this in the months to come. This week, Ren Auto welcomed its first Ferrari to our portfolio as well, a V12 Testarossa, and earlier this morning, the boys photographed a Lamborghini SV in the showroom, which will be advertised just north of $1 million. It's important for our customers to align with the stock we sell, and we'll continue to listen to customer feedback and explore these other options as well. In this slide here, you can see the views of our vehicles that are advertised. Again, we have 10.3% of the total stock in Queensland, and we are the red dot on the chart down the bottom, but we represent 17.7% of the detailed views. So that's demonstrable of the market share that we are taking from our competitors. Brand recognition. Ren Auto is establishing a strong brand presence to position the business for the next stage of growth. We have invested heavily in advertising across the Meta platform and have achieved more than 100,000 views on some of our reels. Social media is a great way to connect with enthusiasts and our ideal customers. In 2024, this is a very important space to operate in. In the automotive industry, publicly available customer feedback, such as Google reviews, is of paramount importance to customer attraction, retention, and buying behavior. For some, the words car dealership might leave a bad taste in your mouth, and we aim to remove the stigma with our innovative approach and eye for bespoke service. So what are our plans? We want to expand our stock offering, set the standard for marketing, and enhance our systems for growth. In future, we aim to purchase our own site to fuel further expansion. When we're looking at expanding our stock offering, we're allocating funding to purchase vehicles as they come on the market so that we can secure higher margin opportunities and increase profitability. These funds will also support consignment sales, where the vehicle needs to be purchased in order to facilitate a pre-existing finance contract. This enables a smooth flow between current demand and availability of vehicles. Funds allocated to stock will also expand the momentum of consignment and establish further market share. The larger market share will also enable us to increase our profitability. When we're looking at increasing our marketing, it's increased brand awareness and customer retention that are central to the Ren Auto business strategy. It is likely that, at least in part, you are watching this Q&A due to our digital marketing and visibility. By allocating adequate funding to this portfolio, we will support our digital marketing program with optimized content production, targeted advertising, email marketing, and bespoke car enthusiast events. Enhancing systems for growth. We plan to consolidate into one powerful platform, a new CRM that integrates with our existing automotive infrastructure, giving Ren Auto the capability to dramatically scale up our current operation and make the best use of our client base. We also plan to allocate a small amount of capital to protecting our intellectual property and ensuring we're applying best practices for cybersecurity. And as I mentioned, over the medium to longer term, we also hope to add a commercial space to the portfolio where we can better meet the needs of the business that is expanding. So why crowdsource funding? We're not the typical startup, as you can see here, but given our traction and the responses from our customers, we wanted to explore the broader market for potential investors. Our refreshing approach in an otherwise very traditional industry has been met with some awesome customer feedback, and that's certainly been a catalyst to our decision to pursue crowdsource funding. The automotive business is usually the domain of large subsidiaries and generational big business. By inviting car enthusiasts and like-minded investors like you to own a part of the luxury car market, we will grow our community and bolster our traction to date. Thanks, guys. I'll hand over to you, Eva.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tom. Such a great presentation. Really insightful, and just really loved your use of data from car sales to show what incredible traction you've had, especially since December. And on that, really wanting to understand what really makes Rennauto quite unique is this consignment model. So what is consignment and how does it work?
Yeah, so consignment essentially is we are finalizing a transaction for two private parties. If you, for example, owned a vehicle, Eva, if you leave the vehicle on consignment with us, you would leave the keys, we take care of the process, and we facilitate that transaction for you. So it's essentially taking over the sale process on your behalf.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess it really highlights how Rennauto is a two-sided marketplace in the way that it goes about managing this whole consignment process with the sale of the cars. How do you source your sellers?
So at the moment, we're going direct to customers as well. So people that own these vehicles, we're going directly to them because we want to procure the right vehicles, as we discussed there. But, you know, with the traction that we're receiving at the moment, there's a lot of word of mouth and social media referrals as well. So there's a couple of, I suppose, streams of sellers or consigners, if you want to get technical, who are ready to leave the vehicle with us and let us take care of the process for them.
That makes a lot of sense. And we've just had a few questions come through, and really encourage anyone here on the call to jump in and ask your questions, and we'll answer them live with Tom now. Just on the consignment topic, Michael has asked, what are the current consignment fees and sell-on charges for the consumers?
Yeah. So at the moment, we're only charging the sellers in a consignment transaction. So it scales up depending on the value of the vehicle. Obviously, for something that's more entry level, we're not charging the same, I suppose, nominal fee as someone who's leaving a $500,000 car with us. So we start with a flat fee, which a minimum at the moment is 6,995. So just under 7 grand for, like, for example, $100,000 vehicle. And as we scale up into more expensive vehicles, it's more like on a percentage basis. So if you leave a $500,000 car with us, at the moment, we're charging 3.3%, including GST. And, you know, between the middle, you're looking at about 5% for a vehicle that's 200,000, 300,000.
Thanks, Tom. Next, I'll go to a question from Peter. He asks, in terms of your vehicle sales, what is your turnover target? And he's asking both in units and also days on the market.
Turnover target in terms of how many days held in stock? Or
Let's go with that, days held in stock. And Peter, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to follow up.
Yeah, so when we're looking at vehicles that we've purchased ourselves, we want to get rid of them within 60 days. When the vehicle is owned by a consigner or a seller, we're sort of working with them to achieve the result as well. So it depends on the level of expectations that they have and the desirability of the vehicle. So some vehicles move within 7 to 14 days of going online, and others, it may take 3 months to sell. But on average, we still want to be hitting less than 60 days. It's also important to consider that at this end of the market, cars do not sell quite as quickly as, you know, a volume operation for a Toyota or a, you know, Mitsubishi. But, you know, if you've looked into some philosophy for car dealerships, we operate more of on a velocity model, which is to get the car in and get the car out. And, you know, usually that's going to get the best result for our consigners as well, because you need to look at the market and where it's going. I suppose a couple of years ago, it was trending upwards. At the moment, it's trending downwards. So they need to get out of the market before the vehicle actually corrects even further. So that's what we share that communication with our consigners as well.
Thanks, Tom. John has asked a question, and I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about this. We know you moved into new premises last year, and John has asked, where are your cars stored, and is it open for customers to view the cars?
Yeah, so we have a showroom in Woolloongabba in Brisbane, and the majority of the vehicles sit in there. We've also got a second facility, which is in the side street. It's about a stone's throw away, for some of the luxury SUVs and models that have a bit more ground clearance to get up the ramp. But there are some vehicles that we are holding off-site as well. And part of that is for, I suppose, insurance risk. We don't want to have everything under one roof. And, you know, certain vehicles as well, if they are near new, like we have some examples at the moment that have like delivery kilometers or less than 300 kilometers, you don't necessarily want to drive them to the dealership. So we actually send photographers out to those individuals and photograph the car. And, you know, typically we can arrange a private inspection if that's the case, the vehicle's held off site. But to answer your question about, is it open to the public? Absolutely. Saturdays are more, at the moment where we really open up. Otherwise, we typically operate on an appointment basis, and that is to give our customers the attention that they deserve. Obviously, we want to cater to people that just want to have the visibility, but when we're talking about really expensive cars, a lot of our customers have had lengthy conversations with our sales team, and they sort of, we go through a bit of a vetting process, if that makes sense, as to which buyers are, I suppose, more serious than others. So for an appointment, it's a bit of a process there, but for visibility, Saturdays you can walk straight in and have a look around.
Thanks, Tom. And just a follow-up question on your floor, thinking about your floor stock versus the consignment stock. We've had two people ask the question of what percentage of your business is currently on the floor or owned stock versus the consignment stock.
Yep. So at the moment, we're almost all consignment. And part of the reason for that is because of the market trends at the moment, and that vehicle prices are correcting. So we're coming out of that, I suppose, post-COVID era. Vehicles are trending downwards. There's a large amount of supply. I think that when I was looking at the car sales data last week, they shared with me that they've actually hit a new high in terms of stock. So it doesn't make sense for us to go out and procure a lot of stock right now, but we're also raising capital so that when the opportunities arise, we can take advantage of that. So part of the reason we don't own more stock right now is we simply don't have the funds. So we're about 90% consignment, like as of today.
Interesting, thank you. And a follow-up question on that is, how many cars do you need to turn over each month to break even? And in those months where you don't bridge the gap, how do you plan to bridge the gap in the months that you don't?
Yeah, so I mean, a break-even point, it really depends on the stock that we're actually selling. For example, if you're charging a percentage, if we sell 4 cars, that might make a large profit, or that might hit break even. So there's a bit of variance there, but generally we'd like to hit, 6 to 10 vehicles moving forward if you're right in the high end of that market. But once we've got some additional capital and we can cherry pick some more entry-level stock, sort of between 80 to 120 grand, there's some good margins there, and they tend to turn over a little bit faster. So we should be getting closer to 10 units a month as we go forward. But, that speaks to, I suppose, projections. So I won't go too far into that, but break-even point, it really depends on, I suppose, the level of stock that's sold that month. It might be 2 vehicles, depending on what is sold.
Awesome, thanks, Tom. And just while we're on the projections point, a little bit of context about how we run these offers as a licensed intermediary. ASIC takes a firm view about future projections, whether they be product, revenue, or return on investment. As a lot of the ventures on Birchal are early stage and don't often have huge trading histories, it's misleading to include this information in the offers, anything that could be considered speculative. So really encourage you, if you do have any questions about the valuation or future projections. We are in the expression of interest phase currently as part of Rennauto's equity crowdfunding campaign. And this means we're currently gathering feedback from around the market as of market interest and assessing various parameters. And for everyone listening, the full terms of the offer, the valuation, share price, investors in the business, and the last 12 months of financial statements will all be available in the offer document when it becomes available when the campaign goes live next Tuesday. So just for any of those questions coming through, please check out the offer document, which will be available to anyone who has expressed interest in Rennauto's campaign as of next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Now, back to some of these questions. One question from James is, have you commenced financing vehicle sales on customer purchases with your Rumo finance arm?
Yeah, so Rumo Finance, just to touch on that, is a related entity. So it was I suppose, a business name to sort of carve out a space for that side of the business when we're looking at finance income. But it doesn't make sense to, I suppose, spend advertising dollars on something that's not directly related to the cars. And also we needed to separate that because you can't have a, I suppose, credit license. You don't want the liability under the same entity that sells cars. So we've separated that, and we're actually going to be moving towards more traditional finance for dealerships, which is where you may have a floor plan. And there is a particular set of lenders which will cater to those transactions that are there. I suppose in relation to income, yes, we're making finance income from the vehicles that we're selling, and that's a strong value proposition for us. And that is the reason why Fabio sits in our office and works with the customers. A lot of these vehicles of this value, they involve finance. So it's certainly something that we've identified as being very important, and we're positioned to capture that income.
That's awesome. The next question comes from Peter, and he asks, what's the business exposure while a car is on consignment?
Okay, so when you're looking at, I suppose, the costs involved of a consignment, it's really car sales, which unfortunately is a bit of a monopoly in Australia. It's very expensive, which is about $250 a month to have the vehicle online. Costs like detailing, photography, they are taken care by the general overheads of the business because we have staff who are, I suppose, targeted to looking after that process. Anything else outside of that, we pay for a mechanical inspection and to ensure the vehicle's quality. We're not going to go repairing someone else's car though. So that's where, before the car goes online, there's a conversation that's had between us and the consignor about anything that needs to be fixed. Generally, because of the vehicles that we are, I suppose, targeting, there really isn't anything to fix. But if there is, we have that conversation at the start rather than at the end. Other expenses wise, I suppose, $90 for a roadworthy certificate. It's more so, I suppose, the length of time that the vehicle sits on car sales. And if we do any specific advertising on Facebook or Instagram for that particular vehicle, I suppose you could allocate that expense towards that one vehicle. But because the vehicle is owned by someone else, we're not paying floor plan or a lot of the other traditional costs that a dealership would pay when they have the vehicle on the floor when you're looking at consignments.
Thanks, Tom. How would you finance new car purchase, floor plan or capital investment?
So new car purchases, as in future stock that we want to retail, it'd be a mix of both. We need to run a significant balance in the bank account to help facilitate some of those consignment transactions where there's a payout that needs to be made. If the customer doesn't have their own funds to pay it out, then we need to have money there to sort of help finalize that transaction. But when you're looking at funds to purchase stock, I mean, floor plan is certainly an option, and it's something that I'm already discussing with interested parties. And it's something that's, big dealerships, that's how they operate. But it wasn't something that was available to me thus far because we are a startup. But we've made some significant headway, obviously, and that's another option that's on the table. But it's going to be a mix of cash, so from capital investment, and there's also the option of floor plan. Yeah.
Thank you. A quick question. Do you specialize in classic cars?
So it's really a market segment that we're sort of trialing at the moment. There's certainly a large opportunity for that. So we need to do some further testing in relation to the quality aspect of it as well. Sometimes, we're dealing with retail customers who may or may not understand that a classic car is not going to be the same as a relatively new car. It may seem silly for me to say this, but there are some people that expect that because it's come through a dealership, whether it's 2 years old or 25, that it's going to be, nearly new. So there is some inherent risk to that in terms of brand reputation and managing people's expectations. But that being said, it's an expanding market and there is demand for it. So we're just going to take it a day at a time and explore some options there. We'll probably, there'll be a particular set of models or types of vehicles that make sense for us to hold in the classic space, but we're not going to take on vehicles just for the sake of being large because we want to maintain, obviously, the branding and the reputation.
That makes a lot of sense. With the obvious focus on Porsche as a manufacturer, what other manufacturers have you had experience with or wish to focus upon in the future?
Yeah. So look, I have had experience with, Audis, Mercedes, BMW, some of the more entry-level, I suppose, luxury or prestige brands in our beginnings. But we have been, I suppose, focusing more on the Porsche vehicles at the moment based on the slides that I presented. And if you look on our website, the vehicles that we're currently carrying. But, there's a lot of opportunities in other brands. And I think I sort of highlighted this on one of the slides. So Ferrari, we have had our first Ferrari land in the showroom this week and a couple of hours ago. And if you did show up to the showroom right now, there's a Lamborghini SV Aventador, which will be advertised just north of $1 million as well. So, I mean, I'm a bit of I suppose, bias to a particular brand as an enthusiast, but at the same time, there's obviously, we're not going to say no to opportunities that exist in other manufacturers, and we are an independent dealership. So to answer your question, similar brands to Porsche like Ferrari, Lamborghini, Lotus, Aston Martin, McLaren, there's all sort of, I suppose, opportunities that we'll explore in terms of viability and go from there.
Thanks, Tom. A few questions coming through about the competition. The first question is, who is your major competitor in the local Brisbane market and how do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah, so, consignment it's not brand new, but it is not something that every dealership is doing. So we have a small number of competitors. Some have been around for a long time. We did have one, I suppose, nearly a kilometre away, which has since closed down. There is another one who specialises in Porsches similar to us, which is another new player. But I suppose what differentiates us is our processes and the bespoke service that we're offering to our customers. And I think, maybe it's not something that people have considered, but the automotive industry, there's a lot of traditional operations going on. So we have a very young and dynamic team, and there's a lot of innovation and, I suppose, different processes that are happening to maximize the advertising of our stock, the visibility, the ways that we're communicating with our consigners, the people who have left the cars with us, and we're listening to all that feedback. So I suppose to finalize on that as well, operating in a truly compliant manner is something that may set us apart from some of the quote unquote competitors in the local area. So there may be a reason why opportunities to invest in similar models haven't existed until now. And, compliance is obviously very important for us.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. That's really helpful. And the follow-on question really was about your unique selling proposition. So I think you've answered that in your response, but if there's anything else you want to highlight there.
Yeah, I think, the people that if you call our business line and you talk to someone about a vehicle, you'll sort of feel the level of enthusiasm that we have for the vehicles that we're selling. It's something that's enjoyable for our team on a daily basis. And I think that sort of really reads through when you're having a conversation with our team. And that gives our customers a lot of confidence. So when you come into the showroom and you have a coffee and you get to meet people face to face, I think that's a different approach. For most, we are, I suppose, boutique, and as we expand, we're not going to move away from that. Even if we're in a much larger facility, we're still going to be offering that bespoke appeal, and I'm working on ways how we can maintain that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And while we're on that subject, I'll ask Peter's question about your staff. How many employees do you currently have? And do you want to tell us a bit about them and a bit about their roles? He's quite interested in how you handle staff development and training and whether you're looking to hire more people in the near future.
Yeah, so the staff, we have David, who's our salesman, very decorated salesman from Mitsubishi in volume brands. He's also got experience in the prestige space, brands like Skoda and Volkswagen. Now, he has a couple of years of experience. He's, I suppose, coming into the sweet spot of his career, and he's very enthusiastic about selling the vehicles that we have on offer. Fabio is our finance professional. So he's a career finance broker with experience for, I suppose, enthusiast brands and enthusiast transactions for leisure assets, and also working with small business owners, which coincidentally form a large part of our target market, people that are buying these cars. Andre is our showroom coordinator. And we also have welcomed Lucas recently, who's our digital marketing. So we have 4 staff at the moment, which we have hired since just September last year. So we're growing quite quickly. Prior to that, I was operating as a one-man operation, but obviously that's not sustainable. So to answer your question, yes, we do look at welcoming more staff to the team. And depending on the level of investment, that might mean much more senior staff as well.
Thanks, Tom. Very exciting. Next question. We're back to thinking about the ratio of stock held.
Yep.
Are you aiming to cap the cars on the floor at certain price points? For example, no more than 10% of cars at the high end or 40% under $100,000?
It's not something that I've considered at this point in time, because we've been more focused on building our brand. When you're looking at the analysis or a stock matrix, which is probably what you're referring to, if you look and do some further research on that from a dealer's perspective, a stock matrix would be, analyzing our demographics and looking at which vehicles sell within which price points, so that if we had space for X amount of vehicles, we would hold, this amount of consignments in this price point and this amount at the entry level point, which is something that we'll consider post race. But at the moment, anything that aligns with our stock selection criteria has been the focus. But in saying that, we really understand that, some of the more entry level vehicles need to be purchased to attract some of those, I suppose, the broader market and nurture them into further transactions as well. We don't want to discount a lot of people who are, or, turn people away who are otherwise enthusiasts and they'd love to get into the $500,000 car, but they've got the lower budget. So enthusiasts come in all shapes and sizes, and we want to cater to all of that. And I suppose, again, that's part of the reason why we're raising funds, so that we can purchase more of those vehicles.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. It sounds like you've got a really clear picture of your target audience there. When will you start the classic car side of the market?
Yeah, so we're trialing one vehicle at the moment, which is an old Jaguar E-Type, and we've been offered a couple of classic Porsches as well. So you'll probably see them pop up over the next couple of months. Now, it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not something we're going to rush into, because it is admittedly not my area of expertise. So there's an element of education that needs to take place as well. We don't want to be selling vehicles and putting our name beside a vehicle that we don't know as much as we'd like, because I think that takes away from our reputation and the brand and the image that we've built. But it's certainly something that we want to pursue for particular brands. And we've found also that a lot of the people that are buying our cars, they own multiple vehicles, and there are classics. So yes, it's an exciting time for that, and we'll be pursuing it over the next coming months.
Awesome. Do you have any intention to expand to any after-sales services, such as mechanical, aftermarket protection, upgrades, or anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's already an opportunity for us to sell aftermarket products. That's certainly an area of monetization which we are developing. In terms of, setting up workshops, the service centers, traditionally they are the profit centers of, I suppose, a new car operation. So that's something to consider. But there's also the element of, maintaining customers' trust and maximizing their opinion of the transaction. So, with a traditional dealership where you own the dealership, you own the service center, you own the parts center, if we're inspecting vehicles and there's work to be done, there's going to be someone that says, hey, like, you're just saying that so that you can fix the car yourself. So, I think if we did create a workshop, there'd have to be some element where it's a little bit more arm's length, so that you can have the credibility of a third party, but with the benefits of cost or profitability for the operation, if that makes sense. So we'd rather work more closely with a third party or have our own workshop, but maybe it wouldn't be called Ren Auto Workshop. It would be something else, so that there's a separation there. And, people are listening to experts in their given fields. It's a little bit hard to be an expert in selling, in workshop, in parts, and all the rest of it. But again, it's something we're considering as we expand, and with the right amount of money and stock, it'll be something that continues in discussion.
Thanks. The next two questions are much more focused around Rennauto in Australia at a more national level. First question is, do you believe national expansion with showrooms in other states would be advantageous, or will you remain only in Brisbane?
So I suppose over the short to medium term, I will probably just stay in Brisbane, and we need to build our marquee showroom. If, there's always the opportunity to franchise and expand out into other states, but they're also more competitive areas. I think, there are more established players in Sydney and Melbourne than there is in Brisbane. And there's also a lot of money coming into Brisbane over the next 5 to 10 years. So it'll be something that will be weighed up quite heavily as to the best way to expand. But, it really depends. Can you deliver the same quality on multiple locations in multiple different states at the same time? Yes, to an extent. Do we want to expand that quickly that we're going to lose some level of quality? Probably not, because that is one of our points of difference. So if it becomes apparent that the demand for it in other states and major capital cities is very high, and we believe that we can deliver the same levels of service and quality, then it's something we'll explore. But right now, I think, you know, moving to a consolidated location in Brisbane and really building that wow factor for the brand before we expand or think about that is probably what we'll do.
Thanks, Tom. And a follow-up is, what percentage of your sales do come from outside of Queensland?
So recently it's been more like 50-50. You know, the vehicles that we're selling, people are not afraid to jump on a plane to come and look at the right car when you're talking a vehicle, you know, $200,000, $300,000, $500,000. You know, they're looking for the right car too, in the same way that we're looking for the right car to stock. They're looking for the right car to purchase. And, you know, the borders of states and things like that don't necessarily deter most buyers. So we actually, obviously, we understand this, and we do personalized things like sending videos and tracking our customers' engagement with those videos of the vehicle. We welcome independent inspections. We, you know, really go out of our way to facilitate those interstate transactions, and hence why, you know, I suppose there's a little bit less importance on expanding geographically first when there's interstate transport available and you can do finance over the phone. And a lot of our customers, and looking at data, see that moving forwards in the next, you know, 5 to 10 years or longer, that purchases will be made mostly online. So that's the way that the industry is sort of heading.
Interesting. And on that, a follow-on question is, what is your target showroom size and amount of vehicles that you'd aim to hold on site?
Yeah, so right now we have about 600 square meters of usable warehouse space. You really need to allocate about 20 square meters per vehicle. So that would be about 30 cars on the floor. But moving to a consolidated location, we'd like to have somewhere between, you know, 60 and 120 cars, depending on the size of the site. That's still a manageable number with a couple of additional employees, but it's not a crazy amount. Like, you know, we don't want to have hundreds or thousands of cars on a big open yard. It's more about, we still want to maintain that boutique appeal and be housed inside rather than the cars sitting outside. So, you know, there's a cost implication to that as well. But you really don't want to expand too big. There's a happy medium. I think that's about, you know, 60 to 100, 120 cars.
Next question is about profitability. How are you planning on increasing sales turnover while offsetting uncontrollable market dynamics?
Yeah. So look, we obviously can't control the market like any startup, but what we can do is communicate better with our customers and show them the data. And, you know, it's really about informing them as to where the market's moving as well. You know, you can sort of liken it to real estate in a sense. We can do comparisons, look at the market, show them the real data of where their particular car is sitting so that they have, sorry, a bit of sun there, an informed, I suppose, view of where their car sits. And we often find that when customers have the right information, they make better decisions. So yes, it's hard for them to stomach that their car is probably worth less than what they think. But, you know, if they have all the information, they're still going to decide to probably sell it anyway. The other side of that too, in terms of monetization, at the moment, we're only looking at the sellers or consigners side. There is an opportunity to on-charge the buyer's side as well for facilitating the transaction. That may be in the form of, you know, dealer delivery fees or a finder's fee or something like that. But, you know, there's a lot of options there in terms of increasing the profitability. And also, as you know, as the brand's reputation continues to build and there's a larger demand and we have, you know, our sweet spot location, it's really going to be, you know, subject to demand and which vehicles we actually want to take on, and we can slowly increase our pricing as well. So when there's a much larger demand for people that want to leave the vehicles with us, we can also charge slightly higher, and that can grow over time.
Thanks, Tom. Now I've got a few more. Well, I think we'll just have time for a few more questions.
Yep.
A follow-up question on staff. Peter's just wanting to know a little bit more about how you're handling staff development and training.
Yeah. So in terms of training, we are hiring people that have had, I suppose, franchise dealership experience. And in terms of the training that I'm developing, it's more so implementing our processes and things that I've worked on in the last couple of years. I personally have done training in the past with, you know, Deloitte Academy of Excellence for vehicles, and that's something that we'll probably look into for Fabio, our business manager or finance broker, and also David in our sales team, and any other staff that join us from there. And really, you know, it depends on how large we scale, but implementing someone like a dealer principal and later a CFO is probably something that's on the top of my mind. But it will be, I suppose, implemented accordingly to the growth that's there. I understand that I am one person and I can't do everything. And, you know, we've hired, I suppose, a staff member every quarter for the last couple of quarters. So that will continue to grow, and we'll obviously look to advice and listen to, you know, industry experts as to best practices as we scale and work together with them.
Thanks, Tom. If you were to take a trading car that you didn't wish to sell on your floor, how would you sell it?
Yeah, so look, the automotive industry, whilst it's run by, you know, big traditional business, it's also small in the sense of the relationship that dealers have between themselves. So we have access to every dealership in Brisbane's contact. So we can sort of identify which other businesses have their particular niche. So we may find that a particular brand fits well with one or two or three or more dealerships. And at the same time, you know, there's vehicle wholesalers whose sole purpose is to purchase trade-ins and move them on and find a home at another dealership. So a lot of traditional operations, they actually have sourced their stock purely from vehicle wholesalers. So they act as an intermediary between dealers, which I suppose is similar to us as an intermediary between retail customers.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks so much. We only have time for one more question. So we'll finish up after this question. The question is about the quality of service and how that sets it apart. So do you want to tell us a bit more about the quality of the service you offer and what makes that unique?
Yeah, so I suppose it's a more personalized approach. We try and build real relationships with our customers, and we don't see them as another number. You know, my philosophy for the business has always been taking a long-term view of things. So we really look to nurture those customers over long time horizons and focus more on, you know, the lifetime value of a customer versus a quick sale. Which I suppose relates to our refreshing approach. But, you know, it's things like remembering their coffee order when they come in to see us or to drop the car off, and, you know, communicating with them and working to, you know, understand what it is that they want, because every customer, whilst many are similar, they do have preferences. So some people want to be updated on a daily basis. Some people just want to be left alone. People want to be contacted over the phone, some want email. You know, we build our customer profiles and we work with them as to what's going to be best for them and not necessarily just for us. So, you know, it's the long-term perspective and it's nurturing those relationships over much longer time horizons than some of the traditional operations.
Thanks so much, Tom. That's a nice note to leave it up. And thank you so much for your insightful presentation. Thank you so much to everyone for joining today's webinar. As I mentioned earlier, a recording of this video will be sent around to everyone who registered in case anyone missed out. It'll also be available on Tom's Birchal Ren Auto profile. The expression of interest campaign for Ren Auto is live for another week. So if you haven't already, please jump onto the Birchal platform and check out Ren Auto's company profile, submit an expression of interest, and you'll stay on the journey for the next 2 weeks and be able to hear more updates from Tom. The early access offer campaign will open on Tuesday, the 18th of June. So that's next Tuesday at 12 p.m. So make sure you do get your expression of interest in before then. And from there, you'll have access to the offer document and all the key terms of the offer before it opens to the public. That's all we have time for today. Thank you again so much, Tom, for your time today. And thanks, everyone, and have a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.